Hainsey. Thank you for finding this video today. We're gonna do a whispered ramble today, and today's topic is video games. Now, I know a lot of my viewers don't necessarily like video games or play video games, but a lot of you do. So, I'm gonna go over some of my favorite retro video games, specifically for the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES, or as my parents used to call it, Nintenny, Nintendo, or that video game box. Anyway, I'm gonna go over some of my favorite retro games from growing up, maybe talk about why they're my favorite games, and give a little bit of personal touch to these so people who don't necessarily care for video games can get a little more insight into my life. To get started, first we have some honorable mentions, some games that I loved as a kid, might not have been wildly popular. A lot of people may not have even heard of these games. Now, a lot of my games are in storage and I couldn't dig them out right now. Also, some of my games I had to sell while I was in college because I had to eat. So I don't have physically all of the games I want to talk about. I have some. I'll put images up for some of the other ones. Our first honorable mention is a game that is not very popular and a lot of people haven't heard of. And that game is called Monster Party. Also, if you've played any of these games, let me know what you think of them in the comments. I really want to discuss these with you. So, Monster Party, I was pretty young playing this game and I don't remember what the actual story is, except that you are a boy and you're walking through a forest or like scary looking places and you're fighting monsters along the way. And every level has a boss at the end and it's a big monster. I think one of them was a big floating head. One of them was like a swamp thing monster. There's a few on the cover here. There was a big plant, kind of like Little Shop of Horrors. I think this came out around the time that movie was popular. There was like a swamp monster. There was definitely a Medusa monster. I think their snakes used to spit at you. Dracula, whatever this big red thing is. All kinds of monsters. And you'd have to find out how to actually kill them to move on. I beat this game a couple of times, but for the life of me, I cannot remember what the ending is. I might have to play it again to find out. I learned about this game from my best friend growing up, and still one of my best friends today. We used to have sleepovers, and we would play this and several other games all night long. He always had way more games than I had, and I used to love going over there in his basement and playing the video games. So yeah, this is an honorable mention. I do love this game. I recommend it. The next honorable mention is actually the very first video game I ever played in my life. I think everybody may know what this is. It's the original Super Mario Brothers Duck Hunt cartridge. This is mine from when I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I still have it, and it still works. So, a lot of people may think, why isn't this original Super Mario Brothers on your top list? And there are just so many games that I enjoyed growing up, and I never actually beat Mario Brothers until I was a teenager. I was never able to do it when I was a kid. I could get to the final dungeon when I was a kid, level 8-4. But in level 8-4, there's different levels of the dungeon, and you have to do like level 1, level 3, level 2. You have to do them in a certain order, or the dungeon loops back around and starts you at the beginning. And as a child, I just never really understood that, and I would constantly get looped around, and I would either get frustrated or run out of lives and die before I got to Bowser at the end. But since then, I've beaten this game several times. It's not that difficult once you know what you're doing, but it is a classic, and it will forever be part of my collection. Duck Hunt is on here too. That's not really one of my favorite games, but it's kind of included with this cartridge, which was included with my Nintendo. Now, there is another version of this that has a third game on it, and that's Track and Field. And that was the game that you had a pad you could put on the ground, and it would cause you to have a mild heart attack because you would stomp on these buttons promise that it was a workout. Anyway, that's honorable mention number 2. And honorable mention number 3 is another game that might not be so popular, but I really enjoyed it. I've beaten this game before, and that's DuckTales 2. I loved this game. You're Uncle Scrooge, and you're going through, I think it's 6 levels. It might have been 7 once you got to the middle of the map. But you're collecting, you're finding your nephews, and you find that guy Launchpad, the pilot, and the, what's her name? I can't remember what the girl duck was called. So you're going through the levels, you're collecting all these pieces. You have your cane as a pogo stick so you could jump on enemies. You find secret passages, secret entrances, and you basically make your way to the end to save the day. Honestly, I really don't remember the actual plot of the game. It was just a lot of fun. I remember there was like a medieval level where there were like suits of armor chasing you, I believe. And there was also like a jungle-ish, like a jungle that was in the sky, kinda. I know that's not saying very much about the game, but I like it. A game that I don't have that goes along with this one that I also really loved as a kid was Chip 'n Dale 1 and 2. That was a 2-player game and you could both be on the screen at the same time. That game was a lot of fun and I have beaten both of those. I remember the boss of one of them, his name was Fat Cat, and he was a huge cat that took up the most of the screen. You had to throw boxes at him to kill him. Actually, you had to throw boxes at most enemies to kill them. So, those are the honorable mentions. Now, the stars of the show, I have some of the games and some of them I don't. We're going to do what we can do. First game on my top 5 favorite NES games I don't physically have. I don't know what happened to it actually. I don't remember selling it. It might be somewhere at my parents' house. I don't know. But it's called Bubble Bobble. And this was an arcade game that they made into an NES game, and you're these 2 cute little dinosaur-like monsters, and you can spit bubbles out of your mouth. And what you do is the levels scroll vertically, and you're basically killing enemies and collecting food items to move on to the next level. And I think there's like 100 levels in the game. But if you don't do this one thing towards the end, it starts you over back through those 100 levels. It's kind of infuriating when you don't know about it. I don't even remember what that one thing was anymore, but it was a specific way you had to beat a level. It's just a fun puzzle-like game. It's along the lines of like Pac-Man and Donkey Kong, where it just kind of goes level to level. The enemies might speed up a little bit, things like that. It was a lot of fun growing up. My friend growing up, we used to play this game at sleepovers all the time. And then actually when we were teenagers, we stayed up all night trying to beat the game. And we got to the last level. That's when we found out you have to do something specific or it loops you over. Oh gosh, we were so mad. But Bubble Bobble holds a dear place in my heart. I'll always play it if it's in front of me. It's a lot of fun. Alrighty, next game number 4 is another one that I don't know where it is. I think it's in storage in my attic and I just can't dig it out right now. And I think I mentioned this in my first Whispered Ramble ever. I'll put that up here. This game is called Burger Time. And yeah, I talked about this in that ramble, but this is a game that my mother bought and I had never heard of when I was a kid. But she bought it because her friends were talking about it at work and she wanted to play it. And she played it maybe 1 or 2 times for like 2 minutes each and then quit. So Burger Time is another puzzle-like game where you're a little guy and you're building burgers. So the level is on tiers and there's ladders where you can go up and walk across each tier. And as you walk across, you're walking across ingredients to a burger and they fall down one level. And you have to get all of the burger pieces down to the bottom to complete the burger. Now along the way, there's little enemies, like I think there's like enemy salt and pepper shakers, or there might be like an enemy who's like a pepper or something like that. And they're running and they're trying to catch you and kill you. And you have to build the burgers to get to the end of the level. It's a lot of fun. It can get difficult. But once you get the hang of it, it's not too bad. And it's just a lot of fun. And I remember playing it as a kid and wondering why number 3 is a game that people say is incredibly difficult, and they hate it, and they can't play it, and they don't understand why it was made when subsequent games in this series were so much different. I love this game. I've never beaten it because I can't. It's very hard, but I made it to the last boss one time. This is the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game for the NES. Now, I think anybody who grew up in the 80s and 90s loved the Ninja Turtles, and they had this game for their Nintendo. And I guarantee most of the people watching who fit that category are saying to themselves, oh, I hated that underwater level with the bombs. I loved that level. So, we'll get into that in a second. This game, I loved it. I loved the Ninja Turtles, and you have the choice to pick which Ninja Turtle you wanted to play as, whether that's Donatello, Leonardo, Michelangelo, or Raphael. A lot of people don't know. Each turtle has different strength attributes. So Donatello had the strongest weapon, but it was the slowest weapon. Raphael had a weapon that's just as strong, but it doesn't reach very far at all. So if you could get close to people, his weapon was fast and it did a lot of damage, but you're more likely to get hit and injured. Michelangelo had a fast weapon with a little bit more range, and Leonardo had an all-around average weapon, average length, average speed, and average damage. A lot of people don't know that, and I learned that later in life. So you go through the levels and you kill enemies. Ironically, a lot of the enemies in this game were never from the Ninja Turtle series except for the bosses. So first level, you get the hang of it, you can get through. The second level is called the Dam, and it's half of it is underwater, and you have to defuse bombs underwater. I never had a problem with this level. I could probably still do it on the first try to this day. But there are so many people who do not enjoy that level at all. I love it. And a lot of people I know gave up at that level and never moved on. There's 4 more levels to the game. The third level, you're in a van, the turtle van, and you're driving all around from area to area, and then there's levels where you walk around. The boss of that was, I think he was an evil turtle. I don't think they called him Slash back then, but he became Slash in future TV shows and video games. Then there was like a warehouse level, and then there was another level that I can't remember, but the boss was a giant mouser, one of those mechanical chompy mouth robots. And then the sixth level is the Technodrome. Now I've gotten to the Technodrome 3 or 4 times. It's very hard. I've gotten the Shredder at the end, the final boss, 1 time. And I only had 1 turtle left. It was Raphael, and I only had 2 boxes of my life bar left, and Shredder killed me immediately. I was so disappointed, but it is what it is, man. It's a great game, in my opinion. It's part of my childhood. I will never get rid of this game in my life. I hold it near and dear. You might think it's weird that an almost 40-year-old man holds a video game near and dear, but hey, it's what I grew up with. Sorry. Alright, that was number 3. Alright, so this is a hard decision, number 2 and number 1, but I could flip these either way. Alright, so this game, I actually have, it's a little dusty, I actually have the sleeve for, and I owned this game growing up. I don't know what happened to my copy, but, met my then girlfriend, then fiance, now wife, Mrs. Reinze. She actually owned this game, believe it or not. I think that's fantastic. This game is The Legend of Zelda. The Legend of Zelda. Experience the challenge of endless adventure. This game is an absolute classic and the start of a very lucrative, amazing, and fun series that has spanned like at least 30 years, more than 30 years probably. And it's really cool because princess, but the main character is Link. The little guy who wears the green with the sword and the shield. He's Link, not Zelda. This game is amazing. It was very innovative for the time, the way the levels were laid out, the way you fought the bosses. This game is so near and dear to my heart. I've beaten this game multiple times, and I recommend anyone who's never really played it or has never really played retro games, I recommend you play this game. If you have a Nintendo Switch, I think it's included with the $20 one-line fee that you pay each year. I recommend playing it. You really should. I've played most other Zelda games that they've come out with over time. Zelda 2 for Nintendo, not really into. I've never beaten that one actually, but I've beaten The Link to the Past for Super Nintendo, all the way through Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker. I never played Skyward Sword, and Breath of the Wild, the most recent one for Nintendo Switch. I've played that and completed it 100% actually. Can't wait for the second one. I wish we would get an update on that, because I really want to play the second Breath of the Wild when it's released. Anyway, this game is wonderful. I love it, and I recommend everybody play it. Plus, it comes in this cool gold case. I thought that was so cool as a child. And I still have the Nintendo branded sleeve for it. Alright, my top NES video game of all time. I think this is most people's top NES video game of all time, and it really revolutionized video games. This really pushed the boundaries of what the Nintendo Entertainment System could do, both visually, gameplay-wise, and musically. The music in this is very good for an 8-bit video game system. Super Mario Bros. 3. This game is excellent, and I've beaten it multiple times. I was actually able to beat this as a child, believe it or not. So this game, what a lot of people don't know is, and they don't talk about this in the game, but the creator has talked about it. It's set in almost a dream world, and it's set like the stage of a play. From the very beginning, red curtains open up, and it looks like a stage play, and that's what it's set to be. And even throughout the levels, you can see like things are bolted to the walls, or things look like stand up, like cardboard or wooden stand up displays, if that makes sense. So the plot of the game, just like most Mario games, is to save the princess. And this game has 8 worlds, and you're going through like mapped out levels, and there's fortresses, and there's castles at the end. There's air levels, ground levels, water levels. There's bonus games. You can get power-up items that you can save for next levels, which was very unique at the time. And this game was the introduction of Bowser's children, the Koopa Kids, or now known, I think they're called the Koopalings now, but back then they were called the Koopa Kids. Let's see if I can remember their names. Lemmy, Iggy, Larry, Wendy, Morton, Roy, and Ludwig von Koopa. Yes, that's it. And I don't think those are the right order, but those were their names. And then the final boss is Bowser, and he has the castle at the end. So all those Koopalings were the boss of each world, and then you fight Bowser at the end when you get through his castle. And his level was pretty unique. They had airship levels where they were in the sky, and you jump from ship to ship. Then there was a level with like boats, like warships that you jump from. And I think there was a level with like tanks that you jump from too. And then there's a lot of lava. It was really fun. I'm not very good at explaining video games, but this game, I'm gonna call it tied with The Legend of Zelda for my favorite NES game of all time, but this one might be my favorite. A fun story growing up about this game. So I still have my original Nintendo Entertainment System, but somewhere along the lines of owning it, we thought it was broken. I think it was just dirty, but we ended up getting a new Nintendo. That one came packaged with Mario 3. The original Nintendo came packaged with Mario 1. So, we get the new system, and me being a child, I opened it up. But the old one started working again, and we cleaned it, and it worked even better. So we returned this system, the new one that came with Mario Brothers 3. We forgot to put the game back in the box, so days later we realized that we returned it without the game, and it was Mario Brothers 3 still in the games box, still shrink wrapped like you would buy from the store. I think we meant to take it back, but something happened and we didn't. So we ended up, years later, realizing that this game still in the box, in the shrink wrap, was on a shelf up high somewhere in our old house. And I acquired it as a teenager and kept it for years and years and years. Moving from house to house in my 20s, it stayed perfect condition. It was almost like a collectible that I cherished a lot. A brand new Mario Brothers 3 in the box. I don't know what happened, but moving one time, the box got smashed and the game broke, and I was devastated. It was pretty much worthless, and the game was broken, the box was ripped, the shrink wrap was obviously busted, and I got rid of it. Well, turns out, somebody recently sold the original Super Mario Brothers game, still in the box and shrink wrapped, for tens of thousands of dollars. Shortly after that, somebody sold one of these for less, but for tens of thousands of dollars. And I could have had one of those. That would have been worth so much money. It's frustrating. I was pretty upset about it at the time, but that's life, It happens. I wish I knew. I remember unpacking it and it was smashed, and I don't know why, because the box wasn't damaged that I remember. I thought I packaged it well. It is what it is. Alrighty, so those are my top 5 favorite Nintendo Entertainment System games. Bubble Bobble, Burger Time, the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Legend of Zelda, Super Mario Bros. 3. Let me know what your top 5 Nintendo games are. Or, you can talk about any video games if you want. In the future, I'm going to be doing more rambles about top 5 lists, and I think I might do more modern games on one of them as well. If you liked this video, like and subscribe. I have to cut this a little short because there's some construction going on up the street, and it's getting hard to record. I'm sorry. We'll definitely continue this conversation. Everyone have a great day, have a good night, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.